What if Toothless wasn't actually the last of his kind? We all remember that heartbreaking moment in the Hidden World where Grimmel claims to have hunted every single Night Fury into extinction, leaving our beloved Bud as the sole survivor. But think about it, Grimmel is a villain, and villains love to brag. Until he found Toothless, he thought he was finished, so if he was wrong once, what's stopping him from being wrong again? The How to Train Your Dragon archipelago is massive, full of hidden sanctuaries and deep underground caverns. Is it really possible that one obsessed man with a crossbow managed to find every single member of the smartest, stealthiest, and most elusive dragon species in history? Well, I found 3 different theories about how the story would change if Toothless found another Night Fury. The first theory explores the idea that Night Furies aren't just solitary creatures, but pack animals that live in a strict hierarchy similar to wolves. In this version of the story, Hiccup and Toothless venture into an uncharted area after hearing rumors of Night Fury sightings. They eventually discover a hidden land, perhaps near the edge of the world, where a small population of Night Furies has managed to hide from Grimmel. But here's the catch. They're not happy to see Toothless. Because they have survived staying hidden and fearing humans, this wild pack is incredibly territorial. Landing in the center of the colony, Toothless expects a welcome. Instead, he's met with hostility. The pack is led by a Titan-wing Night Fury, a massive, scarred elder who has kept his colony alive by enforcing one rule above all: complete isolation from the outside world. So when the Titan-wing inspects Toothless and sees the saddle, the prosthetic tail, and the human on his back, he becomes hostile. To this wild alpha, Toothless reeks of captivity. This creates immediate friction and conflict between the two. Toothless is the fastest and most powerful dragon Burke has ever seen, but here, he is the Omega. He is disabled, reliant on a human to fly, and disconnected from his heritage. The other Night Furies are hostile, perhaps even mocking his inability to fly independently. This theory suggests that even if Toothless found his family, he might not fit in anymore. The tragedy isn't that he's the last one. The tragedy is that he can no longer go back to being a wild dragon. Now, that's just a look at the social consequences, but what if the discovery of another Night Fury was much darker and directly tied to the villains of the story? In the second theory, we explore a scenario where Grimmel didn't kill all the Night Furies while openly admitting it. Instead, he flaunts sparing one of them. Imagine the shock if during a confrontation in the third movie, Grimmel pulls up riding a scarred, armored Night Fury. In this theory, Grimmel might have captured a Night Fury and used his venom, similar to how he controls the Death Grippers, to break its mind. In this version of the story, Hiccup and Toothless catch a distress signal or a scent. They think they're going on a rescue mission. They find a female Night Fury, let's call her Shadow, but she isn't wild or free. She's been deliberately crippled or mentally broken by a bad guy who wanted to control the ultimate dragon. This changes the stakes of the entire franchise. It's no longer just about finding a girlfriend for Toothless. It becomes a psychological war. Toothless has to fight a member of his own species who's being forced to kill him. If Grimmel had a Night Fury of his own, he could use it to hunt Toothless more effectively than ever before. This would force Hiccup to make a terrible choice. Does he kill the last female Night Fury to save Toothless, or does he risk everything to try and save her? This scenario would likely lead to a much more violent story. If Toothless manages to break the mind control venom, this female Night Fury would likely be traumatized and aggressive, far different from the playful Light Fury we know. The romance will be replaced by a slow, painful healing process, where Toothless and Hiccup have to teach her that not all humans are monsters. But even if they save her, the existence of other Night Furies brings up a massive political problem for the dragon world. And that brings us to the third and most detailed theory. Let's see what happens in theory number 3. This is a massive what-if scenario that fundamentally rewrites the events between the first and second movies and changes the entire ending of the franchise. In this timeline, the Isle of Night from the TV series wasn't a fake trap set by Alvin the Treacherous. What if Hiccup and Toothless actually succeeded in finding the colony? As they land on this dark, rocky island, Toothless hears the calls of his own kind. They follow the sounds deep into the island's core and are suddenly surrounded by a dozen Night Furies emerging from the shadows. But they aren't alone. They're led by a massive Titan-wing Night Fury, the elder and leader of the tribe. This Titan-wing inspects Toothless and welcomes him, but the moment he sees Hiccup, he becomes aggressive. This makes perfect sense. An elder Night Fury would remember the wars with humans. However, just like in the original timeline, the Screaming Death attacks the island. In a twist of fate, the Night Fury tribe sees Hiccup and Toothless fighting to protect the island. They decide to trust the riders, and together they scare off the Screaming Death. However, the island is destroyed in the battle. With nowhere left to go, the Titan-wing Alpha agrees to follow Hiccup back to Birth, taking residence in the deep wilderness near the cove. Now, fast forward to the events of How to Train Your Dragon 2. Stoic is dead. Drago's Bewilderbeast has taken control of all the dragons. In the original movie, Toothless challenges the Alpha alone, but in this theory, the Titan-wing Night Fury and his pack are living in the wildlands of Burke. When Drago's Alpha takes control, the regular Night Furies succumb to the mind control, but the Titan-wing? He's an Alpha too. He resists. Imagine the scene. Hiccup is hopeless, facing the ice blast. Suddenly, a blinding crimson light explodes from the glacier. The Titan Wing Night Fury emerges in all his glory, ready to challenge Drago's Bewilderbeast. However, he's soundly defeated. As the Titan Wing retreats to the ocean depths, Toothless steps up and becomes the alpha of Berk. But this changes everything in the third movie, The Hidden World. Toothless is now the alpha, but the Titan Wing is still out there, the true leader of the Night Furies. When Grimmel appears in this timeline, he isn't just hunting Toothless. He's contacted by warlords to hunt the Berk's alpha to bring the entire flock to them. The stakes are doubled because Grimmel knows there's a whole pack of Night Furies now exposed to the world. Hiccup realizes that as long as the Night Furies are on Berk, they're targets. He plans to move them to the Hidden World. In our third theory's climax, Grimmel ambushes the new riders at Berk. He thinks he can take them easily. He aims a crossbow at Toothless, but suddenly, the blast is blocked. The Titan Wing Night Fury returns for one last stand. Seeing their injured elder protecting the young alpha, the entire pack of Night Furies and Berk's dragons rally. One of the pack members, named Sightless, who had been injured in previous wars and is blind, relies on Toothless for guidance. This would directly mirror Toothless's reliance on Hiccup when he couldn't fly. During the final ambush, Grimmel expects to fight Hiccup and Toothless. Instead, he finds himself in an aerial dogfight against a squadron of Night Furies using Hiccup's tactics. Hiccup has equipped the wild Night Furies with basic saddlebags or armor, not to ride them, but to protect them. The wild dragons who once saw metal as a sign of slavery now wear it as armor. Frostbite, a white-scaled Night Fury from the pack, uses her reflective scales to blind the Death Grippers. The wild Night Furies dive-bomb Grimmel's airship. One of the Night Furies lands a plasma blast, taking him down. The Titan Wing, old and injured from his battles, instructs the pack to follow Toothless as their new permanent alpha before passing away. This ending is bittersweet, but powerful. Hiccup realizes that the presence of the Night Furies draws too many hunters. The world isn't ready. And so Hiccup decides that dragons don't belong with humans yet. With the help of the other Night Furies, Toothless leads the flock to the Hidden World. There, the other dragons, Stormcutters, Natters, Monstrous Nightmares, have been living without a Night Fury king for centuries. The return of the Night Furies caused political upheaval, but Toothless emerges as the king of the Hidden World, the new Titan King of the Night Furies. When Toothless is being revered by the other dragons, all the other dragons fly up into the air and then fall backward. Sightless, Frostbite, and the other Night Furies, they do the same on this signal, following their king, but fiercer than the residents of the Hidden World. After all, Toothless must prove that his pack belongs there as the apex predators. The final goodbye on the cliffside carries an even heavier emotional weight. Hiccup says goodbye to his best friend. He says goodbye to an era. He watches as Toothless takes flight, flanked by Frostbite, Sightless, and the rest of the survivors. And so he would write, "There were dragons when I was a boy." Flash forward to the future. Hiccup and Astrid sail to the edge of the world. Toothless is no longer the offspring of lightning and death in the mythological sense. He's a father, a leader, and a savior. They see the king, not just with 3 nightlights, but watching over a thriving colony. The Night Furies have repopulated. The sky is filled with them. In this version, Toothless doesn't just leave because he fell in love with a Light Fury. He leaves because he has a responsibility to his people. Now he is a king who found his kingdom. In the last theory, we see that finding other Night Furies creates new, complex political struggles that test Toothless' character more than ever. The existence of other Night Furies would force Toothless to choose between his loyalty to Hiccup and his duty to his species. The Night Furies would likely pressure Toothless to side with them, to take up the dominant position in the Hidden World. And that's the most fascinating part of this theory. If Toothless isn't the last, he isn't lonely, but he is burdened. He has to integrate a species of apex predators into a world that has moved on without them. So in the end, would the story be better if Toothless found his kin? It would certainly be more violent, more political, and much larger in scale. But maybe, just maybe, the fact that he was the last one is what made his bond with Hiccup so special. What do you think? Would you have preferred a full Night Fury civil war? Or did you like the ending we got? Also, does it really seem plausible that Grimmel killed all the Night Furies as he suggested even in the main canon? We don't think so. Well, that's why it's the subject of this other video. Click on this video right here to see why Grimmel didn't kill all the Night Furies.